I'm so excited to have you on the show today with me, people. Thank you for listening. Oh my gosh, I really honor the fact that you stopped and you're binging on my show. I'm so appreciative, and I brought a beautiful guest today. I'm just going to go ahead and say she was a corporate financial person, and now she's kind of a woo-woo financial person, and we're going to talk about this whole journey of finding herself, and it's so much fun to have a like-minded person on the show with me today. Please welcome, won't you, Courtney Burrell. Thank you for coming, Courtney.
Thank you for having me.
Woo, I'm so excited. Yeah, so maybe let's just jump in with like a question of what can we do to be creative when we're kind of in a trying time? Like, let's just hit that straight on.
Yeah, I think now is the perfect time to be creative. Now, I mean, the universe is yelling at us straight out the gate. Go home, be inside, be quiet, slow down, meditate. We can't get a bigger message than what we're getting right now. And that's that, we have no control over our situation here. So what we need to do is just come back to ourselves, which in turn will bring out our creativity.
I love that. I spent time this morning. I drove up and I looked over my whole community, and I have such a pretty lake up in the hills near my house. And I sat there and I just looked at the lake, and I just felt gratitude. Like, I just sat there and I went, you know what? I am so blessed. Like, I don't know if the world's ending today, but if it is or not, like, I'm going to sit there and really appreciate like everything right now.
Right. It's so funny because I actually have zero fears. I've never been more optimistic than I have been right now. I mean, you go outside, 6 feet away from everybody or whatnot, but you go outside and people like are outside walking their dogs. I mean, I've never seen so many people walking their dogs. There's children playing, everyone's back at home with their kids. I had to go to the grocery store. I braved it. But I could hear someone, giving instructions to their kid of like all the things that they were going to do in the day to have, like homeschool and games. And I'm like, this is beautiful. I mean, people are forced to get out of their, their jobs that they hate.
Matrix. Yeah, they're out of the matrix.
Just like have their head down in the matrix, doing the same thing over and over again. We're forced out of our routines, and we're back into like being with our families. And this is the time where people all over the world have had to choose people over money, and it's beautiful. It's how it should be.
That's so crazy. Now I want to let you guys know that when I was hanging out on the internet, as I am wont to do sometimes, I got into a conversation with Courtney online about her trek with kind of the shaman tool of ayahuasca. And so we're going to get into that a little bit because she had some miraculous adventures. But why don't you start with your sort of corporate to soulpreneur journey a little bit?
Yeah. So I was really just the typical financial advisor, working with the top 1%, helping people retire and invest their money, yada, yada, yada. I was really like totally the stereotype, other than I'm not a 60-year-old white male, which is 85% of the people who do that job. But, a few years ago, I really was doing everything society told me to do. I got married young. I went to college. I bought a house. We had a baby. We had these big careers. My husband's an attorney. We're like a power couple. Super sales focused, driven, goal oriented, and that's what everyone strives for, right? That's what everything in society strives for. And I was living it, and no, something's just off. I feel like what's next? I didn't really know what it was.
I got the dream, and then
I'm like,
I got the dream.
All the things that I thought I'd already accomplished more than I thought I would accomplish. As I was moving up the ladder, and then kind of what forced me into I was searching for more, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't, but something was definitely missing. And then what really propelled me into my spiritual journey, I mean, I had been spiritual, but what really propelled me was I went through kind of a series of near-death experiences. And this was even before the ayahuasca. So
Wow, near-death experiences, I
yeah,
have had several guests on to talk about that, because I actually feel like when you manufacture a fake near-death experience, like you go into a meditation and you say, if my life was over right now, what would my regrets be? You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a really fascinating topic. So yeah, you can share a little bit about that. That's crazy.
yeah. So I had, well, first I had a freak kidney failure. Where I was in the hospital for a week, and I was an athlete, and I just ran hard and went into kidney failure. I was super healthy. They couldn't figure out why, because I was young, healthy, athletic, and just had kidney failure. And I was in the hospital for a week, and they did think I was going to die, and I thought I was going to die. Luckily, I didn't.
Wow.
And then a few years after that, I had a just random, very random mid-pregnancy miscarriage, which right after that, I had a very serious ectopic pregnancy where I actually passed out, was bleeding internally, and had emergency surgery. And then a year and a half or a year or so after that, I got pregnant with my son, had this really high risk pregnancy where I was on and off bed rest. And then I had a very traumatic birthing experience with him where that was really the closest to death, because I had complications after C-section and lost a whole lot of blood. And if I hadn't been demanding, like, please, something's wrong with me, and I got a new doctor, I would have gone to sleep and passed that night for sure, like 100%. So I had that experience. I was in the hospital for a
So
week.
just pause for a second. Pause for a second. I'm clearing our space again. Some gremlins trying to speak. You're not welcome. This is our show. This is Courtney and Erica's time. Tell me about that experience of where you bring your son in, it's C-section, and then you almost die.
Yeah.
Can you tap into any awarenesses you had around that and choosing life?
Yeah. So there's more. Are we? So when I had my son, and I had brought in this new life, and I actually was struggling to I couldn't even take care of him. I had nurses that would literally put him on me because I couldn't move. And once I recovered enough to leave the hospital, my mother, grandmother, and sister came out to help with the baby. And then my grandmother, within a month, unexpectedly went into hospice in my home. So she went to hospice and then passed, and then my sister passed like a month after her. So I had this insane, intimate relationship or intimacy with life and death in a super short period of time, because I had brought in this new life. I had almost died. I brought in new life, and then I had two very important people in my life pass. But not only just pass, they passed very intimately with me in my home, to where that'll make you that'll wake you up a bit. It caused me to start asking a lot of questions, like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Who am I living for?
Right.
I realized I was living for pretty much everyone but myself, and I really had lost connection with myself. I had lost a lot of who I was, and that really started propelling me into discovering myself.
That's part of what I got, because remember I was telling you I did some work today earlier with another client, and part of what we got out of this was that requirement that we find out who we are.
Yeah,
that's part of what's happening right now on a global level.
absolutely.
That people are just going in and saying, okay, well then who am I? Like, if
Yeah.
I'm not my job, for me, I got 5 hours of daily parenting given back to me. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm not spending 5 hours driving them around.
Right. Yeah. I know. It's amazing.
It's not always 5, but it
Yeah.
can be. It's minimum
Right.
3, where I
I
drive,
know.
sit, wait, pick up, go over here, pick up, drive, take them to practice, pick
Yeah.
up
I
from that, take
100%
them back.
relate.
It's
I'm in
like,
the same boat.
it's like, I woke up the first day, like, that we were going to be not in school, and I went, I just got like 4.5 hours in the
Yeah.
day. Oh, it was such a strange experience. It was kind of like, right? Now
Like, what do I do with my life?
mine are older teens. So like, then I had to like go in their room. I have to like go in their room and pull them out of the room and say, okay, we're going to get food. Or, you know,
Yeah.
like I like, they're so into their like life and their friends and their chats and their this, because they're not like little kids, you know, they don't come to
Yeah.
me for that's funny. Speaking of talking about me. Yeah, so it's really fascinating. So let's go forward from having these major upheavals that caused a lot of change, which is a lot of what people are going through right now in an odd way, and then tell us about the next journey into ayahuasca.
Yeah, so I think over that time period, I started diving into more of my intuition and even kind of developing my psychic abilities and whatnot, and just learning everything I could because I was very interested in the spiritual world, but it definitely wasn't a part of my life. It was definitely in the closet, I would say. I had my friends and I was just learning, but I wasn't like calling myself any kind of spiritual person, at least just out in the public. And so when in one of our spiritual gatherings, a girl in our group mentioned out of nowhere that she had these ayahuasca experiences and that she was getting ready to have a San Pedro experience, which is actually, it's different than ayahuasca, but still done with shamans is a spiritual ritual as well. It's a little bit longer and it's more gentle. And so when I heard her talking about it, I was like, something was for sure calling me of like, okay, I feel like I have to do this. I have no idea what this is really, but I feel like I have to experience this. And this is coming from someone who's like never done any recreational drugs. So like, I don't even drink alcohol. But there was something really, as soon as she started talking about it, I was like, every piece of me was like, you need to do this. You need to do this now. And then like, okay, I can't not listen. And then, so I had that experience actually first. And that, really from that point on, almost like every week I've been a new person really. And then, I went into the ayahuasca experience and, it just blew my mind. It was nothing what I expected.
Well, share. I mean, I understand it blew my mind as some words that might have meaning to you, but our audience is really high level. So the people listening are on a spiritual journey themselves. They're all interested in this. We're not talking to people who are doubters. We're not talking about people who hate their lives. These are people who listen to my show because they've got to be a little bit crazy and they're thinking, you know, I'm crazy. So tell us a little bit about like what was wonderful or some insights that you had. Like just give us like, you don't have to give us everything, but just give us like some like things where it really gave you something. What did you take away from it?
Sure. So it's funny because I came into it with I had a whole list of things that I wanted to accomplish.
How'd that work out?
I'm like, dear ayahuasca or Mother Aya, like, here's all the things that, you know, I wrote like a letter and I had all these intentions. And it was funny because, you know, I had listened to a lot of other people's journeys. And it's this beautiful setting, and I go to take it, and I can feel it start coming on, and all of a sudden I'm like, what did I just do? Like, I can't believe I did this. Like, this is so crazy. Like, I started doubting myself instantly. And luckily I remembered from the shaman, she was like, the more you resist, the harder it's going to be for you. have to let go. So I'm just like, okay. And then all of a sudden, I literally lost my mind. And I don't even say that figurative of speech. Like, she came into my mind. I couldn't have a thought, and she took over my mind and started showing me what I was doing in my mind, if that even makes sense. So
It does. It does.
like,
Yeah.
control, like worry. I was just like everywhere in my life where I was being controlling and worrying. And then almost immediately, which that was pretty trippy, but immediately she was like, look, you came in with all these expectations and control. And she's like, this is like a first date, honey. We got to get to know each other. Cool.
Oh my gosh, she called you on everything.
Yeah. But I really learned from the first night. It was 3 nights. The first night was really all about where I was being controlling in my life, how I was worrying about everything, and then just how uptight that I was. And like, she's like, basically like, I'm going to loosen you up. Like, I'm going to loosen you up, girl.
Wow.
I'm like, okay, all right. Like, bring it on. I got this. But, it went on for a while, and really the cool part of it was, although at the time it was very difficult to go through, but she actually showed me over and over again, like, this is your ego, this is your higher self. Here's scenarios where you've been driven by ego, here's scenarios where you've been driven by your higher self. But not only the visuals, but even how to hear it in my head. Like, here are prior thoughts that were ego thoughts. Here is what your ego sounds like. Here's what your higher self sounds like. And it was,
oh, that's fascinating.
literally for like, the ceremony was over, and I go back into my little cabin, and I'm still going. Like, all night, I'm like, ego, higher self, ego, higher self, ego, higher self. And I'm like, oh, this is really helpful. And then it's like, not only is it ego and higher self, here's like what your grandmother sounds like. Here's what, your friend sounds like. And, here's, your sister. And like, these are how you can distinguish them in your head. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's really cool too and helpful. Thank you. But really, because of the experience of her coming into my mind and just literally pushing my mind aside and taking it over and controlling it for me, which another lesson, control, that I learned is, control is a total illusion. And as we are experiencing now, there is no control. We are not in control of anything at all. And so I heard that loud and clear, especially as the shaman, which was hilarious, started singing at the end. Like, she sung a song about control being an illusion. And I'm like, but that's the crazy thing about ayahuasca is everybody there was going through very unique experiences, but we all have the same theme of this letting go and control, which is crazy. But another big thing from that night was also that I really separated from my body. It was made very clear that I am not my thoughts, I'm not my mind, I am not my body, I am none of those things. I kept like hearing in my mind, like, you are nothing and you are everything. Like, you are nothing here, but you are also everything at the same time, which is interesting. And I got this kind of, it was that my body was the like puppet. My mind is the computer, and my soul is the hard drive. And it was like that I was getting an upgrade on my hard drive to be able to like control my computer that controls my body, which is interesting.
Wow.
But yeah, I really felt like, I don't remember which pill it is, what, the red or the blue. But I felt like I had taken the pill and like I woken up to the Matrix. I mean, I knew the Matrix existed, but it was like actually experiencing it, really just experiencing it.
How would you define the Matrix now? Or describe it. You don't have to define it, but describe it.
Yeah, I think it's just that, the physical experience here, I mean, we're spiritual beings living this physical experience. But all reality as we know it here really isn't like true reality. It's just, we're almost like playing a game. We're here to create, we're here to have fun. And that was kind of the theme of the second night, of just letting loose and like, hey, like, you know, I'm taking life way too serious, and you humans, you're taking life way too serious. Like, this is, if like, we're here as physical beings for a reason. Otherwise we would just be spiritual beings manifesting whatever we wanted whenever we wanted. So we're here to have that physical experience, which means we're here to experience all the joy of what it means to have the five senses, and to, you know, feel things, and to, you know, explore, and like have a body, you know, and take care of our bodies and love our bodies and like feel with our bodies, because we don't have that when we leave the earth. So it's important to really have that balance between the spiritual and the physical, you know, why we're here. And I think especially as spiritual people, we tend to get like the world, you know. Like,
Yeah, what was it like going back to work after you'd had these experiences?
you know, it was fine, because what happened was, through the second few days, it was more about me. I almost like laid there and I was getting worked on. Like, she was working on my whole body, of like, a lot of it was in my womb space from all the trauma that I had had. But because of that, I think it had done a lot of damage to my chakras. And she was really just like removing all of that stuff and bringing, like, I felt like I got my power back.
Nice.
I mean, I 100% did. It was like, and a lot of it started with like that feminine power, that feminine essence, and embracing your femininity. And then really just like, I could feel it. So that second day or third day there, I was like, I actually started walking around, like practice feeling my feminine energy, which is funny because it was a silent retreat. So we actually weren't talking with anyone. So after the fact, everyone was like, we saw you strutting around out there. I'm like, all I did was just feel it and walk. But people could actually tell a difference. So, you know, so when I went back to work, I actually I would pull up into the parking lot and like just sit there and like feel my energy. And I'm like, all right, I'm embracing my power and I'm going in there and being confident. And over the weeks since the experience, it's just moved way beyond that. Not just the feminine energy, but just really accepting and owning who I am, which is a really woo-woo spiritual.
Yeah. Well, why don't you, Courtney? Why don't you give us a little hint about how people can find your new podcast and learn more from you? Why don't you give us a little what's up about that?
This whole experience has really taught me that, or it's really shown me what my life purpose is, and that is to really be a source, a leader to help spiritual entrepreneurs. And so what I did was immediately start a group called Soulpreneurs Unite. That's soul, like SOUL. And that is just a space for soulpreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs to have a community, to love one another, to support one another, to learn from each other. It's not just about me pitching my message. It's really a place for everybody to share with their gifts, because look, this is the time more than ever where the world needs us. We have these very big, strong spiritual missions. We have unique gifts that we have to share with the world. And it can be hard because a lot of times off the internet, we're not around people that get us. But we have to have this community where we can support each other, keep each other inspired, so that we can continue to remain to be our authentic selves, so that we can not only grow together, but help bring the rest of the world with us. Because whether we like it or not, the world is ascending. we're going, and either people are going to get left behind and worse off, or we've got to bring as much people as possible with them.
I love it. Perfect timing for the messages. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming. I'm so glad you
absolutely.
came to
Thank
the
you.
show. Yeah, tell us the name of the podcast and how we can find out
Yeah.
more.
So the podcast is the Soul Business Podcast, and that's where we're featuring a soulpreneur each week, and that's to grow together to learn how to grow our souls, our business, and our bank accounts. And this is a community. We're here to do it together, and I'm excited.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.